We're here today to talk about Jubilee with Seal Letters of Priya on Twitter and with our usuals, Gabriel, Travis, and Miduna. And we're like really focusing on our girl Jubilee here on her journey from fangs to babies. So let's roll it.
This week on Mutant Watch.
Okay, so this time my co-pilot Gabriel is running the questions and doing the introductions and all the things that I usually do. So don't be too harsh on them.
So to start off, I have a very straightforward, very easy question, and that is why Jubilee? What draws you to the character?
I mean, I think it's just kind of a combination of like a lot of things about her. I just love her aesthetic for one. It's like she has a very particular fashion sense and style, and she's like express herself in that way. And I like her sense of humor, and like how she brings levity to a team or a series. And I also just really admire her compassion and her courage. I think those are traits that a lot of fans don't really notice unless like they're really like thinking hard about the character, but those are things that I really like about her.
So Jubilee was probably like before Jubilee was in the X-Men, I couldn't really read the main X-Men comics. I could look at like X-Men Classic a little bit, but like actual X-Men running monthly, they all seemed just alien to me. And I couldn't really get into it. And when Jubilee was in there, I could like be in with Jubilee. And I don't know if that was just the right age at that moment or what, but she seemed like the most human one and she did normal things. And she got mad at the other X-Men for normal things. Like I remember an issue of Wolverine where Wolverine goes to some seedy motel with who she sees as Jean Grey. And she goes back to the X-Mansion, like super mad that Jean and Wolverine are in this hotel. And it's Mystique. And she's so happy that it's Mystique and not Jean, that she gives Jean a hug, and Jean's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And that was like the most human thing for me. I was like, I know that situation. Like, so I know being frustrated at adults for having weird adult existences, and you're like the teenager who's sort of there, but you're not really in it. And so I attached to her very quickly at that point.
Yeah, I did. In hindsight, and now that you're mentioning it, I do realize that Jubilee has been used a lot as that kind of human connection. She's kind of like the entrance way into the X-Men. During Operation Zero Tolerance, she was the one who was showing that humanity towards the Sentinel. And then when Ileana died, it was through Jubilee that we got to see the grief rather than the people who technically should have known her better. It was Jubilee who was reacting in a very human, empathetic way.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what is it for me. My mind goes to this cover of this comic that has a Jubilee with a bag and is saying, if you're gonna read one X-Men comic, this is the one you should read. And it's a good one. And and I think I love how especially how recently she has matured a lot as a character. And one of the things that Cyril said, like the compassion part of the character, and also the part of like this is a character that we see learning, that we see have like a learning experience, and that we see behave in ways that could really be relatable to us. Like the fact that in Generation X, in the first issues, is like super jealous of Monet because she's perfect, and that type of stuff. It's very enduring, and you kind of see the character grow a lot. And I yeah, I guess that's one of the main like advantages of like having a series of comics that last a long time and having her in a lot of series, is that I really feel like with Jubilee we have like grown, and she was like much more teenagery at the beginning, and that's interesting to see, and like always adorable for me to see. So that would be mine.
For me personally, one thing Jubilee is rarely ever my favorite character in a comic, but I'm always excited to see Jubilee interact with whoever my favorite is, because she has such a strong personality that she doesn't back down to other strong personalities, which is very important considering the fact that for a big part of her career she was alongside Wolverine. But even then, she never just like shut up and let Wolverine take charge of everything. She always had something to say, always something to do. And that carried through in things like Generation X when she was next to Monet, or when she was on the all-female X-Men cast. She was always a strong personality that had like a kind of guess a sense of self of who she was, maybe more so than anyone else, which always just I love seeing her in comics for that reason.
Well, I love her in AKA Hellcat because she comes in there and her whole purpose for being in the book is just she needs a job. Like that, it's very earnest. I have a kid. I need a job. I'm a vampire. And so they hire her, but she has so much personality in it that she doesn't become like that's a role that can easily become very background. And you're just there to give the necessary info dump for the issue or whatever, and she never becomes that. She always has personality.
Yeah, and can I just say I love her outfits in that run. I think Brittany Williams is a really great artist, and I love that. I feel like since Jubilee has grown into an adult, there's been a little bit less focus on like her fashion. But in that run, it like
Yeah.
you see her how her style has sort of matured as she's grown a bit older, but it's still like very fun, and it's just really good in that run. So like I would recommend checking it out like just for Jubilee's clothes, honestly.
So kind of like what you said and what Duna has said earlier, Jubilee, I think, out of the majority of the X-Men, has had the biggest range of journey throughout her time in the comics. So what do you guys think of the journey that Jubilee has gone through?
I'm a little behind, but I mean, largely, I like it. I like that she's had a wide range of experiences. That she, like during the when everybody was depowered, and she lost her mutant ability and felt very culturally cut out, not just cut out because she can't be a superhero anymore or whatever, but that community wise, she felt very cut out. And then I thought a lot of the vampire stuff, I liked that. I know many fans were not, it's too out of the wheelhouse or whatever, but I like that it was different because Jubilee for me is not a power set. It's not, I love her main costume, like her main, like she just wore the same clothes every day, every day. That's being 13, but I love that it's not defining of her and that she can have this growth. I don't want to see, and I've seen some fans or some X fans really push for that growth to go to where she's just Cable Mark II or something like that. I don't care how many fights she gets in. I don't care that she's ever the leader of an X-Men squad. That kind of maturity, quote unquote, to me, one, it's not really mature, and two, I just don't. It's not what I want out of Jubilee. So I'm happy with what we've got for the most part.
Yeah. I think there's something really touching about how she very much like grew up like as a child of the X-Men, and then now she's raising her own child of the X-Men. Um I think it's a good like development for her. Um I am a little bit I feel like lately there might have been like a lot of emphasis on making her more adult, which is like I do think like she is an adult and she should be like mature, but like I mean that doesn't mean that she can't be fun also. Um so I don't know. I feel like I don't want that fun aspect to be lost with her.
One of my favorite scenes in Howard's recent Excalibur run is they're all in London, and I think Kyle, Nostro's husband, is watching Shogo, and Jubilee's response is, "I don't have a baby. Let's get drunk," and she just turns into like the wine mom, and I love that evolution of Jubilee because it fits with who she was.
Yeah. And she is the one good ex-mom, right? She's like the one good mom.
Yep.
Just because she hasn't thrown her baby off a cliff yet.
I mean, she hasn't thrown her baby off the cliff. She isn't just like cruel to them to teach them lessons. She hasn't tried to sacrifice him to any demons. The
You all
line,
just for Salwin or next, like one of the next souls.
which is, it's also very appropriate that she is one of the best ex-moms, with Mother's Day being tomorrow, which was not my intention when we did this, but it worked out pretty well.
I
Happy
thought
Mother's
that
Day,
was the
Jubes.
plan. So
Oh, that's tomorrow. Okay, it's not tomorrow in Spain.
Ah,
It was last week in Spain.
okay. Well, we stuck the Jubilee show in between the Spanish and American Mother's Day, where she belongs.
this was
Yeah, and
very, very thought out.
I intended
there's
it all along.
something about her like having lost her own parents at an early age. It just I don't know, it makes me really happy that she's able to like be a good mom, and like she cares so much about Shogo and about raising him, and it makes me happy to see like that development for her, and she's able to raise this kid.
Also, one thing I do love about Jubilee being a mom with Shogo is the maternal instinct she does have. Um, and I think that that is something that don't see much in comics, is having, not biologically related mother and child, and her acting the way a mother should. And it's never questioned, it's never brought up after the arc where they figure out that she's keeping him. It's just Shogo is her son. That's it. There's no questions. There's no argument, and I think that's great to see. I
Yeah,
just wish
also
they would let him age.
yeah, well, also when you mentioned Kyle, it reminded me, I think, somewhere it might have just been like on Twitter or it might have been in the comic, but like someone said that like the reason that Jubilee has Kyle babysit him is because Kyle is like a good human influence in his life. And I just think that's really funny, especially like with her being a single mom, and like it feels like a very like lesbian mom thing to say. Like he needs a good positive male role model or like human role model, and so I just got a kick out of that.
He needs a good, strong male role model. Let's find the nearest gay to come on in and help out.
Yeah, I think Of the topic that you were talking about, the little short story that was in Marvel Voices Identity, I think, last year, which was written by Christina Strain, was like developing the whole relationship that Jubilee has with like the death of her parents and how that shapes how she wants to be a mother or like to project that part of herself in the world, and was a really beautiful short comic. Like a
Yeah.
really, it was really
I
touching.
I have actually not read that one yet just because, like, I know it's gonna make me cry when I eventually read it, so I'm waiting for when I'm, like, prepared to read it.
Yeah, it's gonna make you cry. It's definitely gonna make you cry. I reviewed it when it came, and I like fully cried with, and it's like 6 pages. Like it takes a lot to make you cry with 6 pages, but like yeah,
Jubilee, even though she hasn't gotten as much focus in the X books in a while, she tends to shine really good in the anthology stories, like the Merry Xmas special, where it was Jubilee being stuck in the mall with Shogo, and that was the overarching thread. And it was just an awesome and fun showcase of Jubilee and the various parts of her and how they come together.
And the thing I loved about that story is that it's like Ileana's Banff doll, she gives it to Shogo, and I just love that, continuity. And it also shows, like, how Jubilee has been with the X-Men so long, like, it's such a part of who she is, and, like, now it's also a part of who she's raising her son to be.
I wasn't a huge fan of when adult or teenage Shogo came back from the future. But that being said, I would love to see more stories of just what Shogo, the human raised on Krakoa, is going to be like when he comes of age, and what being immersed in the mutant culture, how it's going to influence him. Um, I think that would be a great story I'd love to see. In regards to Jubilee's journey, though, I'm a bit up in the air with it. I looking at it, like taking a step back and just kind of looking at where she went. I do love it, but I find that way too often Jubilee ends up in stories where it seems like they're trying to regress her back to what she once was. Especially in terms with her age. I know that they did something wonky with her age when she went to Generation X,
Yeah,
but it seems like post Generation X, a lot of her appearances, especially if they're in alternate dimensions, she's shoved in with the new X-Men kids. Like in House of M, she's besties with Dust, which seems odd since they're kind of like different generations. And then I think in Secret Wars, she was
yeah,
dating Pixie, which again
Yeah, they
seems,
were exes.
yeah, yeah,
yeah, which again seems like she's just in the wrong age group, and I
yeah.
I feel like it's kind of pulling her back. But even in the main continuity, like when they had that giant roster of Uncanny X-Men, they just shoved Jubilee back in her dungaree booty shorts, and it just felt so regressive to me. I'm glad to see that they're finally moving forward with her again.
I just reread the Nation X anthology, and they do the same thing there, where she's being reintroduced to the X Men, kind of, and they have her hanging out at like the beach with like the very young, like the new X Men kids, Annalie and them, and so it's very weird. Yeah, like she seems like she should be, like they should look at her and see old, even though she's not old.
And I do like how they kind of addressed that in that X-Men run, because you had like Mercury make not sorry, Bling make a move on her because Mercury
Mm-hmm.
rejected her. But even then, despite the fact that their age being close was kind of acknowledged, even with like Hellion hitting on her, it was still like this is the new X-Men, but this is Jubilee, just out of reach, like the TA. Um, and that kind of age gap I appreciate more
Mm-hmm.
than what we've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to like Jubilee's age, I mean, it I just kind of see her as like she was a teenager for a long time because this is comic books. Um, and I don't really mind that. Like I think as a teenager her character works really well. I do think that like right now like she has to be like an adult like early 20s or else like I don't think she should be a teenager now. Um, but I don't like I do see the appeal of, writing her as a teenager, um, but, like, I mean, I'm glad that she's, more of an adult now.
Well, one of my favorite arcs recently for X-Men was the 3-issue arc that Larry Hama did with Wolverine and Jubilee. And Jubilee in that is definitely teenager. Like it's set in the past storyline. And so I think you can do that. Like I don't mind as much if it's a set in the past or if it's an alternate reality, but it's like an alternate reality that's just telling a fresh story. It's when they try to keep everyone else aged up, but they bring her back. Like I get confused with a lot of those. Didn't Rain date a student at the same time, like during that new
We
X-Men
don't talk
era?
about that.
Like
Yeah,
like I also
that
I
happened.
just the age thing is so I get confused.
But at this, I feel like by the ending of that, at least, it was kind of like we were all supposed to agree that that was wrong. That shouldn't have happened. Um, but also they never said exactly what the age gap was and how wrong it was. But it feels very wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to, like, worry too much about, like, ages of characters or else I'll just, like, not be able to enjoy the stories.
Just turn every Colossus comic into confetti.
Yeah. So the next question I have for you guys is, so like we said, Jubilee has been through a lot. What is your favorite era of Jubilee?
I have my question ready. I have my answer ready. My favorite era of Jubilee is Vampire Jubilee. Uh, by not just because I love vampires, but because I think it's one of the most like it poses most like ethical dilemmas on her. It gets the most of like the growth of the character and the like way that she is like very compassionate even within like a very like challenging situation. And specifically I really like the X-23 run by Marjorie Liu. That's like big Jubilee for me. It's also big Laura for me. Like that comic is like one of my favorite kind of explorations into like trauma and like how to manage like things like addiction and like a lot of other stuff. It's very heavy, but I really like how well a character like Jubilee or like Gambit is also there. Like I really like how well these characters fit into that story, even if they're characters that are usually used in a much more naive way. But here they become like real people that have to deal with real uh, awful shit. Because like there's self-harm there, there's like the vampire slash addiction stuff, there's like a lot of things happening there.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
I also have a real fondness for Vampire Jubilee just because I really like vampires and I like Jubilee, and I think it's a really, like, I know that the way like, Curse of the Mutants is, like, not the best story, even though I am personally really fond of it. But, like, yeah, the way that it was executed at first was, it was kind of cliché and not the best, but, like, in Marjorie Liu's X-23, like, that series, it really, helps to explore, like, what this means for her, and, it's a really great way to push the character and also just kind of show everyone that there is more to her than just sort of the like the sparkles, you know? Like and you know, Jubilee is forced to like figure out like who she is now and how she's changed and how to still be herself. I think Catherine Immonen's Wolverine and Jubilee miniseries is also really good. Um, it's just like her like figuring out who she is and Logan like also helping her and just kind of like reassuring her that like she's different now, but like he's still like her friend, you know, he still cares about her. I think that storyline in conjunction with the X-23 storyline is good.
I was very relieved when we got the X-23 and got to see the Jubilee there, because I feel like, kind of in a way, Jubilee is a cheap way to pull on the emotions. Like, if you want the reader to feel something, have something bad happen to Jubilee. Let's get her depowered. Let's get her crucified. Let's get her a vampire. Because so many people have that attachment to Jubilee, and she's just kind of become this, in some storylines, kind of like a punching bag. But the X-23, it kind of was her drawing strength from her trauma and what happened to her.
Yeah,
I
and
oh, good.
and just I think Jubilee's storyline of figuring out like who she is, I think it works beautifully in conjunction with Laura's storyline also of figuring out who she is. It's like because they both kind of feel like monsters in a way, and they're trying to figure out how to be like other, but like still like be okay with who they are, and it's just I really love that connection of them just being like teenage girls who are like having a hard time, but like they can relate to each other because what they're going through is in some ways similar, and they just it's good.
Travis, did you have something?
I can't remember.
What's your favorite era of Jubilee, Travis?
I'm really partial to like early '90s Jubilee, and just because that's when I came in, and that's when Jubilee came in. So, but that era, that kind of energy, just because everything was so self-referential, and like even reading old that like that era of X-Men, like I didn't understand as a teen, like they would say things like I thought Gambit turned into metal, like Colossus turns into metal, because in like X-Men number 1 or 2, they say Gambit is all brass. And so for like 3 years, I was like, well, that means he can turn into brass. Like all the adults in X-Men talked in this bunky and bouncy stuff. And I was like, I don't know about bunkies and bouncy rabbit, whatever, like Claremontisms. And so Jubilee talked like a normal person, which I realize now was they were just like making fun of the way teenagers talked. But at the time, I was like, that's how a normal person talks. And so that's my era for Jubilee, really. And then it feels like with the vampire era, like that's her comeback to me. That's her, like she's back in and she's become a different person and grown up. And so I love the vampire era, even though the first couple stories that are in that, I just kind of go through. But once it's established, and she's got Shogo and she's a vampire, like that's a whole new life for her. And so I love that era as well.
Okay,
I
and oh, were you
Oh no, go
gonna?
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say, like, I know I've been talking about how much I love Vampire Jubilee, but also I think my favorite stories of hers might be the like the first few, like the early stuff when she's just introduced. I think Uncanny X-Men 244 is a really great story, like just by itself. Like I love how it's kind of like a one-shot story. Like you can just read that one and it's like its own complete story. which is like rare for like comics, you know. But I think that her Jubilee's early appearances don't really get the credit that they deserve for like establishing the character and like bringing up all these points about like just like young people and like the power that they have and don't have, and like I think Jubilee is a really great character to explore like how young people like can be forced to be independent at a young age and how that affects them. And I think the Wolverine and Jubilee relationship is really compelling. So I like that. I like the establishment of that, the introduction of that. In I think Uncanny X-Men 251. Um, I think it's a really compelling dynamic, and it goes both ways. Is what makes it so compelling because Logan needs Jubilee just as much as Jubilee needs Logan, and I just really like the issues that explore that relationship.
I'm also a big fan of how Jubilee takes all of that forced to kind of come into an adult while still being a teen, and that relationship with Wolverine, and then she kind of gives it back. She becomes kind of a mentor to Laura. There's the Christina Strand run of Generation X, in which case she is the teacher, and I think that role fits her so well. And it was kind of refreshing to see it, and how she interacted with the students. Um, that said, I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion on my favorite Jubilee era, and that is when she was Wondra in the New Warriors. I like the fact that she lost her mutant powers, she lost her identity, but despite all that, what she decided was that she was still going to be a hero, and she found a way to do it, and she led the New Warriors. And I also think that Wondra and Chamber as Decibel are massively underrated, and I would love them to whip out that tech at some point on Krakoa. Um, I'm assuming they have access to it because we got to see Stacy X as Tempest, I think her name was, with the fire and the ice, and
Yeah.
I think that I want to see a giant Jubilee shooting sparkles. I want to see that. It'd be badass.
I actually have never read that New Warriors run. I don't know. I just heard it's not good, but if it's saying something interesting about Jubilee, then maybe I'll check it out.
The first arc is like weirdly, the anti-Mexico stuff was really weird in the first arc. And so I never made it past that. So I'll have to check it out.
It's been a while since I reread it, but it is a weird way of making an X-Men book without making it an X-Men book.
Yeah.
It's entirely populated by former mutants and trying to be heroes despite the fact that they don't have powers. And then I think it ended kind of clunky because it got canceled a little bit early.
Yeah, one thing that I do love about Jubilee is that powers or no powers, she wants to help people. Like I loved when she got depowered and I think she was like running a support group for former mutants. Um and it's just like that's who she is.
Yeah.
Like she has so much empathy and compassion for other people, and part of that I think is just how she has reacted to like the bad things that have happened to her. I feel like she has been able to like use that experience to like motivate her to help other people who have also experienced like difficult situations, and I think it's really courageous of her, and it's just very strong of her to like you like to not let that like turn her bitter. Like she still has this optimism and this desire to help people and make the world better. And it's very admirable. And I just really love that about her.
When I was thinking too, like I love Jubilee in Amalgam, where she gets merged with Robin, and especially with Tim coming out now, it just feels like more confirmation to me of Jubilee. Like, like they're not really into each other. They just kind of want to be each other. And then the world collided and they became each other.
Yeah, I didn't read the one where they became the same character, but I read the one where they're like flirting and stuff. And that is like, I mean, if the only time Jubilee like is able to kiss a boy is when he's from another universe, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, well, then that's like in the middle of the story. Then, like, they're like, "Oh, you're interesting. You're interesting," and then, like, 3 issues later, they're merged together, and it was like, yeah, that feels very much like a like they're not a heterosexual thing, but something else where they're just looking in the mirror.
Yeah,
Jubilee,
there's
yep,
oh,
good.
there is some really interesting like gender stuff with Jubilee that I think people miss because it's not so present in the cartoon. But like in her first appearance, it's like her style is sort of more androgynous. And then like there are a couple of instances where she dresses up as a boy, like as a
Mhm,
disguise. And there's I feel like because she's an adolescent, she's, the comic, like, allows her to, like, be in this, like, sort of, nebulous state, like, with gender. Like, she's not, like, a woman yet, so she's allowed to sort of, play with that expression a bit more, um, and I think it's
mhm,
interesting. Also, I think, like, her, like like, some time, like, she had no parents, like, so she was just kind of, raising herself. I think that, also,
mhm.
as an interesting, factor to her, like, choosing to present that way, I think.
I know there's like one issue where she's mistaken as a boy by some group and she's got to hide anyway. So she just like stands up a little taller and like, yes, I'm a boy. Like it's really cute. But it's there's definitely that side to her. And also who she chooses to hang out with, who she chooses to emulate or, focus on in groups.
Yeah, and there's this kind of, like, admiration mixed with envy that she has with, like, older women or,
Mhm.
like, even,
Yeah.
like, Monet also,
Yeah.
and I always get the sense that, like, she doesn't necessarily feel that femininity in herself, and
Mhm.
so but, like, she kind of wants it, like,
Mhm.
she, like, kind of aspires to that femininity, but she feels like she's not capable of it necessarily.
Yeah.
But then she's also like clearly kind of attracted to it on some level.
Yeah.
And I just think there's some interesting stuff there. I just really love in Generation X how she's always like calling Monet so perfect and like pretending to hate her, but it's like you don't really hate her.
No. Yeah.
Jubilee has the very strong habit of surrounding herself with very powerful queer coded women and unobtainable men.
Mhm.
I think her main three love interests has been Robin from another direct dimension, Sink, who was always in love with someone else, and Chamber, which I was never a fan of, but also
Mhm.
no face.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
can't kiss him.
Yeah.
It's like the funniest thing to me.
Well, and all
Um,
of her energy goes to things like when she's venting at Rogue or she's venting at M or she's venting at what the nearest hot woman, the nearest bombshell. She's very upset that not everyone can look like that. Not everyone can do that. And yeah, that feels like somebody could pick up on that at some point and really, if editorial was okay with it, that you could really do something with that.
I do find even in current era, she ends up on a team with super powerful telepathic former model Elizabeth Braddock, and they never really give a real reason as to why she is on that team. Everyone else has a purpose for being there. Richter and his connection to the Earth, Rogue and her ability to absorb powers, Gambit with his connection to Rogue. Jubilee just happened to be there one day and then became a part of Excalibur. And in my head canon is that she was there because she just wanted to be close to the gorgeous Betsy Braddock, and now she has to go save the world with her.
Yeah, I think also I feel like because like the obviously like the most iconic Jubilee like friendship or relationship is with Logan. But if you look at like the other characters like she connects with, like it's primarily like women or like teenage girls her age. Um like, one that, stands out to me is during Zero Tolerance, there was that, like, robot girl or something that, like who was sort
Yeah.
of holding her captive, but, like, she was also being held captive by Bastion, and, Jubilee sort of, talks with her and gets to know her and sort of gives her the courage to, escape, or, like I think that's how it goes. It's been, like, a while since I read it, but, I feel like Jubilee has this, ability to connect with other girls like her age, and then like she also has this admiration for older women, and there's just something about that like orientation for her, like that just that uh direction for her that really interests me, and that's part of the reason that, like, I see her as a lesbian because, like, a lot of her really, compelling relationships are with, women.
Mhm. And I love how much of a Yukio fangirl she is. She'll get very excited that they're going to go see Yukio again. They can hang out with Yukio, which is really cute. I don't know if there are two Yukios in current continuity, or did they de-age? Because they introduced the movie, the Deadpool movie version
Yeah,
to the
well, they
comics now,
didn't, like they didn't
but it,
give that
oh,
character a name, so
they didn't. Okay.
she might just be, like, someone who looks like the one from the movie, but yeah, I feel like it's been a while since we saw Yukio just because she's not a mutant, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of unfortunate because I love her.
Like she was in the Bahama story last year, but it was
Yeah, that's
set
set
back in
in
the
the
day.
past.
So yeah, present day. So I'm confused by that, but I would like there to be more there. I would like them to do more with that.
Yeah, I have, like, this weird I don't know why this sticks with me, but there's a comic in 90s Hama Wolverine where like Yukio is I think like teasing Jubilee and like saying like I think she's calling Logan her boyfriend, or it might
Mhm.
be she might be calling Gambit her boyfriend. It's one of those. But I don't know, there's something sort of interesting to me when like characters imply that Jubilee, like, has romantic feelings for Logan, because like, it's, like, very obviously not true, but I
Yeah.
feel like that, like, in my mind, like, Yukio is teasing her that way because, like, she can tell that Jubilee is not into guys, and so she's just, like, poking fun at her in that way, but I feel like whenever characters try to bring up, like, does Jubilee have a crush on Logan, like, it only, like, points out more that, like, that relationship is not, like, a sort of romantic or sexual one, like, like, neither of those characters have those feelings toward each other, like, it's it's not quite like a parental relationship either, though. It's like I feel like because they are they're not part of like a traditional family, and so that it makes that relationship one that we don't really have language for because it's not something that happens in society.
Mm.
But it's very much like a familial, like a friendship, but like it's not quite like it is very much like Logan is a father figure to Jubilee, but Jubilee is it's not like Logan has all the power is what I'm saying. Is like it's very much like it's a bit more equal than that. But yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of rambling.
No,
But yeah,
I
I think that is a really interesting relationship in comics.
I I definitely agree with what you're saying that it's a kind of a unique familiar relationship. And the more you described it, the more it kind of seems to me um, how in cultures that have large extended families that aren't always related by blood, but everyone's a cousin. Um, it's kind of like that is what Wolverine and Jubilee are. Is they are that cousin where he is significantly older, that he has the kind of respect or authority, but not all the respect and authority because she's still going to call him out on shit. And it is that kind of found family relationship that we don't see much in media, at least not in America.
Yeah, definitely. It's very like queer is the feeling that I get is it's important to me that it isn't a relationship that really fits into like things that we really have like language for. Like it is very much like it feels like a queer thing where it's like a older gay is like helping out a younger gay or like serving as like a mentor for them. And I don't know, it's really important to me.
I think
I
they kind of live through each other too. I remember when Wolverine during the Bone Claw stuff, and he just leaves, and she's feeling very much like, well, oh, you have the power to leave. I wish I had the power to just whenever I felt like it take off, and instead they ship her off to the new school, right? And so, but he wants that. Like Wolverine, I think wants to be like he shows up to the wedding during that time. He just stands outside pouty and writes them a letter, but he still goes to the wedding. And so I think he kind of wants what Jubilee has. Like they're both kind of the orphan character, and he wants to be adopted in and brought in, even if he'll stand outside in the snow and pout. And she wants the ability to leave whenever she wants to, or the ability to be both part of family and like an adult autonomy that she doesn't have yet. So I think they work really well together because of that. They can kind of back each other up on that.
I'm kind of upset right now, Sil, because you're kind of making me rethink how I look at Wolverine. And I kind of went through a whole like external crisis while you were talking, and that's gonna be now on camera forever. Because now I just have this image of Logan as a gay elder reaching out to young queer people like Jubilee and Rogue and Oya and all these characters who have varying levels of queer coding and kind of bringing them in to usher them into their queerdom. And it's actually a version of Logan that I like, which I'm not used to. And you're the first person to have made me rethink Wolverine that way, and I'm kind of mad at you now.
I'm pretty sure that Wolverine has taught every young ex girl how to do their makeup except maybe Pixie.
And he probably tried, but Pixie's like, no, I got my style.
Yeah.
You're good.
Pixie, she has her sparkle. She has her pixie dust. She's good.
The next question I have though is we kind of skirted around it a lot, and that is Jubilee in other forms of media. She was big in the animated series originally, and then she's had appearances in most other ways. What are your thoughts of Jubilee in other media?
Yeah. Jubilee in the animated series, I know a lot of people don't like her. I like her okay. It's like, I mean, I only watched the first season of that show, but I thought she was fun. She's not the Jubilee that I love, like it's very much a different version of her. But I think she's fine. Like, it's not the worst they could have translated her, definitely. And I mean, the outfit is like iconic. Um, Jubilee in the movies, I have like a really I think I must be like the only person who's mad about this, but I'm really mad about her like long hair. I think it's really significant that Jubilee usually has short hair. Like I mean, for one, it like sort of codes her as like more of like a rebellious youth or like someone who sort of has her own style and sort of goes against the grain a lot of times. And in Generation X, especially, like she does a lot of like fun stuff with her hair. Like she puts it in like three little ponytails
Mhm.
and stuff. And it's like girls with short hair are like really just that's important to me to see in like comics and visual media. And I feel like giving her that long hair is like I mean it's a cute look, but it doesn't feel like Jubilee. Like I feel like Jubilee does not use hair conditioner.
Jubilee definitely, like in the early comics, she chose her own hairstyles. Like
Yeah,
you
like
could tell.
she obviously like cuts it herself.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you say adaptation to other media, the first thing that immediately pops to my mind is White Jubilee from the Generation X movie. Like, I'm never actually gonna have a day where I don't just randomly think of White Jubilee.
Okay, I'm with you. But at the same time, I feel like despite the fact that she's a white Jubilee, I still feel like that is one of the better adaptations of Jubilee that we've ever gotten, which is a weird thing. That Generation X movie is like a weird section of X-Men property that
It's
no one talks about enough.
it's somehow better than 90% of the other adaptations and really bad.
Yes.
It's funny. I watched it a while ago. It made me laugh a lot. I heard a rumor that that character was going to be Boom Boom, but then they changed it to Jubilee because she's more popular. I don't know if that's true, but
Makes sense, so.
yeah, I remember a lot of that movie. When I saw Jubilee, I was like, that is not Jubilee, that is white Jubilee. But then there were a few lines where I was like, okay, yeah, Jubilee would say that.
And I think the reason for me, I think why that Generation X movie, aside from the fact that it's white Jubilee, did so well as far as adapting her as opposed to when she showed up in other places, is I think that they kind of approached it in a way that they didn't try, like animated Jubilee wasn't overhanging them. And I think that they either try too hard to match that Jubilee or they're too afraid because everyone knows that Jubilee, that she ends up being a background character that does nothing except for in deleted scenes.
Mhm.
Also, I do find it entertaining that the Foxmen Jubilee is never aging and forever a student, because she is a student in multiple movies throughout several decades. She's still there. She's still a
Getting
student.
held back a lot.
I mean, it's accurate to the comics.
Yeah.
So that was a
Was
choice
anyone
that they definitely
else,
made.
like, I always forget our age differences, but it really bothered me when she got regressed to go to Generation X and how much younger she was suddenly from X-Men to the first Generation X. Reading it now, or thinking about it, does it bother either of you? Or is it
Um,
just like that feels normal now?
I've not read many of the pre-Jubilee pre-Generation X Jubilee,
Okay.
so I never noticed the age difference. I didn't realize that she had aged beyond like the 14 that she was when she got to
Mhm.
Generation X.
Okay.
yeah, I remember when I read it, it also did bother me a little. I think I had assumed that Jubilee was like around like 16 or 17. And so then
Yeah.
when she's like 13 in Generation
13.
X, I was like, this doesn't feel right. I don't really like mind that version of her
Mhm.
though. I mean, I mean, I guess like because before we had seen her more like around adults, and now we're seeing her more around kids, and I don't know, it kind of makes sense that like she would act more childish around kids, maybe. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a version of her that I don't really mind.
Mhm.
And the final question I have for you guys, and I don't know if you guys are aware or if the listeners are aware, Jubilee was in Excalibur, but is going to be in the Grindhouse style comic written by Leah Williams and drawn by, I believe, Carlos Gomez, alongside Dazzler, Boom Boom, and Laura Wolverine. Coming out, I think, in June or July, I believe, but I could be making that up. What are your thoughts or hopes for Jubilee in that series?
Uh, I think it's great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm especially looking forward to like seeing Jubilee and Laura like on panel together again. I'm not expecting much of like because it seems like the series is sort of it's not like very deep or intellectual. It's just like 5 issues of like a lot of like fun, like gory fighting, which it sounds fine. I think it'll be fun to see Jubilee play off the different characters like Dazzler and Boom Boom. I think whenever Jubilee and Tabby are like um next to each other, they either like really dislike each other or like they go shopping together, which is fun. I'm kind of hoping like to see like Jubilee like acknowledge to Dazzler that like she was one of the first she was like one of the first X-women that Jubilee ever saw and was one of the reasons that Jubilee decided to like leave the mall and like jump into this portal and just follow the X-women wherever they went. Because that's like such a core moment for Jubilee. And since Dazzler is part of that, it would be cool to acknowledge it. Um, I think I don't know. I think there often is a tendency to try to make Jubilee more child friendly, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like because she's in the cartoon, like it seems like it feels rare to like see her drink, for instance. Like it was sort of surprising, but then also not at all surprising seeing her like talk about drinking alcohol in Excalibur because like it is that is like in character for her, but it just feels like we never see her like do those sort of adult things. But I think in this new series, Exterminators, we'll see more of like an adult oriented side of Jubilee and like I think that will be fun. I really liked how Leah Williams wrote Jubilee in that last issue of I don't remember the name, Extremists. Yeah, I thought she had a really good handle on Jubilee's character in that comic, so I'm hopeful that this depiction of her will be good as well. Sorry if I'm like rambling so much. I just like talking about Jubilee.
You are our Jubilee expert,
Yes.
so it's not rambling. It's imparting important information that we need.
Okay, good.
So my hope is just that it's good. I'm the most nervous fan always, and so some of the like we haven't seen a lot of promo stuff for it yet. Some of the way it's described, I'm like, it could go very poorly. It could be really cool. It could just be okay. So I'm hoping it's somewhere between okay and really cool. But if it's really bad, well, we've seen really bad before, and we'll weather it. So my hope is just that it's everything's good and it's like a fun, like short little mini where there's a lot of action and that they're not going to lean too heavily into certain territories, I guess. Especially with they're talking about going to a higher adult rating, and it's like Not that I'm opposed to that, like a general sense, but the minute you throw that and Grindhouse and a bunch of women into a X-Men comic, I start to get a little nervous.
I can definitely see why to be nervous. But I'm gonna be optimistic, which is rare for me. Because 99% of the time, for my taste, Williams has been able to pull through. And to me, Williams, I love reading things that Williams writes because she is a fan of the X-Men as well as a writer of the X-Men. And I've not seen someone acknowledge and utilize continuity the way that she does. And for someone like Jubilee, who has such a massive library of continuity, I would love to see what Williams would do with that, not to mention what she's doing with the other characters. And like you had said, Jubilee has such history with these characters. Dazzler was the first person she saw. She had that strong relationship with Laura. And even Boom Boom, they've not interacted as much, but that comparison has been following them around since Jubilee was introduced, or Boom Boom was introduced. I really don't even remember which one came first. But that has been like following them forever. So I would love to see what Williams does with it. And also, I feel like Gambit should be there, just based on everyone else. I feel like he should be there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was in that like 1-page story.
The Blast Squad.
But I have to say that like Jubilee like ending up on this like small team of like all women who are just like fighting together is like the most Jubilee thing. And in Extinction Agenda, I think Jubilee was hanging out with Boom Boom and Richter, and like she and Boom Boom clashed a lot, and it was really funny because they were both like trying to like be the boss, but then they both like didn't really like or respect each other that much. So, but then like I think in Generation X, or maybe X Force, there's a part where they go together and like go to the mall together. So, I mean, it could go either way. I think it would be fun either way.
It'd definitely be interesting.
When they had Boom Boom taking care of Sabretooth at the mansion, and Jubilee immediately saw that as her and Wolverine, and she's like, "You're copying me again."
But that's all the questions I had. Unless there's anything any of you guys want to add about Jubilee, where she's been, what she's doing, what she's gonna do.
I still think she's a lesbian, and she should be one. That's just what I think.
No, that's canon. That's
canon. According to Mutant Watch.
That's Mutant Watch canon. We're just creating a safe environment for her to finally come out.
And there is that alternate universe in Runaways where she actually was a lesbian. So I always point to that one, saying, "See, it could happen. It could happen."
Yeah. Totally agree. I think that's the best way to end the show. Jubilee is a lesbian. It's time to see the people around her and the readers of the comics acknowledge it. So, thank you so much, Seal, for coming to talk about Jubilee, and thank you, Gabriel, for carrying this one. And and we'll see each other in a couple of weeks, and then later more. Bye.